that question. It's important.
Kathy, you're not muted yet, just so you know.
Are we recording?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Catherine. So I'm going to begin. I'm Tezkiah Gabriel, and I am the Executive Director of Pathways to Peace, as well as the owner and operator of Gabriel Associates. And I am a peace walker, just like each of you. This is a first to pull together this group of core peace walkers, people who are carrying the tektite stone and are really living anchors for the energy of creation for our new earth. So we're just honored and delighted that you're all on this call. We believe that this is about building an engaged and sacred community. So of course, what that means is that we need to give you an opportunity to talk about who you are and to share your stories, as well as you need a little bit of history. So you're going to hear about the origin story of the tektite stones that each of you are carrying. And then we're going to spend a little time calling in the next receivers of the stones. As you'll hear from Esther and from Catherine in a little while, the stones are ready to go out. And some of them have left, some of them have been called and received, but the others are waiting for receivership. So that's how we're going to spend our hour and a half here. I know some of you have let me know that you can't be here for the entire time. We'll miss you, but we understand. And we ask that, that when you leave, that you hold energy for this group. We have others who would love to have been here and did let me know that and agreed to hold us all the energy for our time together and to be with us in spirit. So we honor all that are here, as well as those who would love to be here and are with us in spirit. So I'd like to introduce Strong Buffalo to open with meditation or prayer. Strong Buffalo.
Hello. Well, I'm basically a poet, so I'm going to do poems.
Perfect.
First one is titled, Go Beyond. At this present moment of time, right here now, at this very moment, the only way to change is to go beyond, beyond. Beyond before, beyond after, beyond war, beyond life, beyond good, beyond hate, beyond death, beyond bad, beyond money, beyond rich, beyond poor, beyond yourself, beyond me, beyond time, where nothing is impossible and everything is possible. So go beyond, beyond. The second one is titled, A Message from the Dark. A very dark shadow follows nearby. A quiet someone speaks out of space with no words, but with memories so close by. and so far away. A quick something moves through the air, never alone, even if untouchable or unseen. As a star shines for me from far away, the darkness utters softly to me, I love you, I love you. Well, thank you, all you peace walkers. So let's get started.
Thank you so much, Strong Buffalo. That was perfect. That was perfect. Thank you. So we'd like to engage all of you right away. And so the way we're going to do that, because we have a lot of folks on the call, is that I'm going to call on each of you, and to make sure that we make room at the table for everyone. I'm trying to work my technology here that we're working around today. To make room at the table for everyone, we want you to take about a minute to minute and a half. So this is going to be a challenge for all of us. And those who, both Esther, Strong, Buffalo, Catherine, and myself, get to be participants in the process as well. So we want these to be heart-based introductions. So we ask that you just take a moment and kind of settle into your chair and come into your breathing and come into your heart as we experience the one heart. And with that, 1 minute to talk about who you are and to give us your reflection on what the stone has brought to you. You can also, if you choose, you can say what called you, or what the stone has brought to you, what gift has come as a result of answering the call of the tektite. And so I'm going to just call on you. Of course, you can pass if you're not ready. I'll just go down my screen and hopefully I won't miss anyone. Kim Weichel, I have you up first.
Thank you, Tez, and it's delightful to be here with everybody. So my name is Kim Weichel. I used to be Executive Director of Pathways to Peace many years ago, so Tez and I have a lot in common. We're currently writing a chapter together for a book I'm working on, and the focus is our chapter is how do we live in peace during a time of crisis? It could be many types of crisis. I co-teach at American University with my husband at the Lifelong Learning Institute. I'm a longtime passionate peace builder and women's leadership champion and advocate. So I do many other things, but what I wanted to share just briefly about this beautiful stone that I was gifted, and I appreciated Tez's thinking of me in this way. So I'll just share personally, and she knows I went through a very challenging personal situation in this spring, and not COVID related, and fortunately the situation is now resolved, but I've known I've needed some deep healing, and I've been using this stone as my touchstone for that deeper healing, to give me even greater inner peace, inner joy, inner spirit, inner light than I've had before. And I'm just really committed to this deepening. And also living in the Washington, D.C. area, I'm calling for what's best for this country at this very divided time. Obviously, I have my views on what that is in November, but I won't get political. And I just really pray for my personal well-being and the well-being of all of us. So I'll just stop there, Tez. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. And Bonnie Jean. You can unmute yourself, Bonnie.
So yes, my name is Bonnie Jean Flom. I live in Northfield, Minnesota. I was invited here by Karen. Let's see, the stone has been, I wear it, but it also rests on my bedstand. The fragrance of it is with me. And I just find that very calming. My history is that I've been a teacher and a principal in my career. And over that course of time, the schools that I've been involved in have been international peace sites. A band that I play in has performed at Peace Stock as part of Vets for Peace. And interestingly, this year, it was an online celebration. And as a part of that, Strong Buffalo appeared and was wearing this and presented. And I found that very meaningful. And by the way, today's poems, Strong Buffalo, were fabulous, very emotional. But I'm just going through a really dark time right now because of what's happening in our nation. And so I'm here as much for healing myself as to help others heal. And so I'm just grateful for the invitation, and I'm looking for ways that I can help reach out to others and make a difference. So I'm grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie Jean. And of course, you're not alone when it comes to healing ourselves as we're supporting the healing of others. I think we're all there. And Barry?
Yeah, I'm Barry Reish. You can hear me?
Yes.
It always bothers me when I can't hear myself. I can hear you, but I just got to double check. But thanks so much, Strong Buffalo. Appreciate your wonderful poetry and your manner and being that you bring to our world and our lives. It's a great thing. I'm glad to know you. Yeah. So anyhow, I'm a military veteran. Spent a year in Vietnam, and shortly after that, I transformed my life from a warrior to a peace advocate. I've been spending a good part of my life trying to stop a war. And of course, that hasn't been very fruitful, as conditions in our world will note. Anyhow, I won't get overly political. But anyhow, that's been part of it. I'm also an environmentalist. I care much about the world and our environment and what have you. And I learned about the stone when we dedicated the peace pole in front of Karen's, or I forget. I'm having trouble getting used to her alternative name now. I know her as Karen, but anyhow, so that's why I learned about the stone. And it's interesting because I had just watched Michael Moore's documentary, the planet of the people, or something to that degree, and it's quite dire. And I spent a lot of years trying to do the right thing and be an environmentalist and conserve energy and all that, just to find out that a lot of it is just consuming more resources and really not getting anywhere. So I was feeling pretty hopeless, or not, it just was really dire. It was bad news for me. And I learned about the stone that, like, the following day, and that ceremony we had at Karen's house was kind of soul nourishing for me. And so I got the stone. I don't wear it all the time. And I passed one on to another friend, the guy that actually passed the documentary on to me. I sent him the stone, for his, say, this is your next path right here. But anyhow, so I'm just following along, and I got the email to participate. I'm going to have to leave early. I got another thing that I have to do. So I'm glad to be here with you all. I'll pass it that.
Thank you. Thank you, Barry. And Linda B., I think.
Hi. Thanks to everybody for being present, for coming together and for being present. I'm an artist. I've been working at reclaiming my voice in art for the last 8 years or whatever, and it's come to focus on nature. And I've come to realize that I don't know that I'm necessarily using the vocabulary of nature to express myself. I think I'm more being a conduit for the expression of nature, for nature expressing herself, and recognizing that we are all truly interconnected. I have an upcoming show called Universe, One Song, which is really focusing on us all being together. And I have found when I wear the necklace, which I did for like 2 weeks straight right away, thanks to Esther, who introduced me to it, and I was like, yes, you know, no questions. It's like, yes, we could do this. I'm rooted, you know, as in nature, really rooted, calming, being present. I'm able to let go of so many things that I've been attached to and be okay with all that. The other interesting thing, which is kind of funny, is when I wear it, my animals are usually within 2 feet of me. We have the dog right here and the cat right here at the moment. So with this, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. And Josette.
Yes, my name is Josette Antomarchi. My accent is French. I'm from France, south of France. I came here with a theater company long ago, Theater de la Jeune Lune. I'm an actor and writer and director. I love to sing. And I got involved with Kathy Matalamaki, who's here with us today, who introduced me to the Peace Pouch. She had just begun to stitch those adorable little leather bags and became a stitcher. And boy, did we stitch! Month of January, March, and February, January, February, March, those 3 months. We kept stitching and stitching, and I've cut all those little cords that allows to keep the cord together. Those long little, thin little, they were like 280 or something. I mean, the astronomical amounts of stitching and cutting. And it was lovely because it was winter, there was snow outside, we were inside, warm, inside Karen's and Gary's home, at that long table, stitching together, listening to music, singing along, talking about the stones and what it did to us, the dreams we had while wearing those vivid dreams that came to us. Looking for the name, how to call this pocket, peace pockets, peace bags, peace bowl, peace bloom, peace nook. I mean, we went through so many fantastical ways of trying to name the things. Peace starburst, because they come from the stars. And so it was lovely. I just don't want to go too long and to say that it's been quite the process, and we stayed connected, and we meet on Wednesdays on the lawn at Karen and Gary's as much as we can to try to keep advancing the peace pockets, so they can everyone, at least 1,000, and who knows, maybe more, can become peace walkers.
Yes. Thank you, Josette. And actually, we're going to be talking more about the Stitch Table group as a part of the origin story. So thank you for kicking that off. And then Martha.
Hi, everybody. I'm Martha and a communicator. I see myself as a communicator in a lot of different ways. I live on the East Coast and was brought into this awakening through Catherine, who we teamed up with Tez. And so I'm grateful to be here. When Tez asked us for a moment of silence, what touched into me was the fact that all of us are star seeds together. So having these stones is a big reminder of that. At the same time, it's very grounding. So when Tez suggested that I might become a peace walker, I cried. I was probably where you were, Bonnie, at the time. And when I am close to that place again, I make sure I'm wearing the peace stone. So my hope is that I can continue to distribute the stones to people who are aware that they're star seeds too. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Martha. And Lee.
It's actually Leah.
Leah, thank you.
Sure. I'm Leah Good Harris, and I live in Santa Rosa, California. So I'm right in the middle of the fires. And I have lived here almost my entire life, and I love this land so deeply. And these stones, I'm finding more and more that what I need to learn is not from books, but I need to listen to the land. I need to listen to the trees. I need to listen to the stones. And my dearest friend, Marilyn Larson, who's with us all today in spirit, she, through Esther, gifted me this stone. And she and I do ceremony together. We've done it together here in California, quite a bit, in quite a few places actually. But with COVID, we do a lot of ceremony across space and time. And these stones are helping to connect us. And without these stones, I wouldn't be here with all of you beautiful people today. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Leah. And we'll continue to hold energy for your safety, your home, your land that you love, and all those in the fire. We have many loved ones in the fires in California. So yeah, blessings to you. And Gary?
Hi, everyone. I'm Gary of Karen and Gary. Karen's my life partner and also partner in this project. The one thing that I would say is that the stones to me have presented their properties merely by drawing all of these people together. The Stitch group, everyone who's been involved in this project has been amazing in terms of their dedication to peace and working to promote peace, move the stones forward. Karen's mission has been that these 1,000 stones have a place in the world, and she's going to make sure they get there. And I'm behind her 100%.
Thank you, Gary. And it couldn't have happened without you. And I know we're going to hear more about that in the origin story as well. So Gwen. Oh, you're muted. We'll wait for you. There you go.
There, okay. Well, I'm part of the Stitch table if you want to wait to talk to me later.
No, you have your own story as well. So please.
Well, I am a longtime friend of Karen, and we ran a business together for many years, jewelry and candles, and then we kind of gave that up. And when Karen started with this project, she invited me in, and I said, well, you know, what should I do? What is my part? And she said, I don't know, just show up. So I showed up on Wednesday, and I thought, okay, I'll stitch some pockets. And it turned out that was not my calling. I could stitch one while everyone made 10. So then I, kept showing up, and it turned out that we needed packaging for the piece pocket. And so that was my part to the project. I worked on designing the packaging and cutting the paper. And anyway, we were really, I feel like we lost our momentum with the pandemic. We were all so fired up and we were making 1,000 of these pockets, and then the pandemic, and it kind of lost its momentum, but all these people that are here today, so there is momentum, just not what I thought it was going to look like. So that's all I have to say right now anyway.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Kathleen.
Are you talking to me?
Kathleen.
Yeah,
Kathleen.
I'm Kathy Madlamaki, and I come kind of from the same place on the planet as Karen. Karen's father and aunts and my father and aunts all come from the same town up in northeastern Minnesota. So when I got the call, I got the call from Karen, and she told me the whole story, and I thought, well, that's interesting, that's nice. And she said, by the way, my father's from Floodwood, Minnesota. And I said, really? And so anybody who's Finnish and from Floodwood is okay. And I said, sure, I'll come along. So on Wednesdays, we stitched, but lately we've been meeting outside because of the virus. And I've come to the conclusion that it's not so much about the stone as the intention that I have when I'm wearing it.
Yes, thank you. And now, Kathleen, I think it's Backberg. I'm squinting to see my phone. Kathleen, thank you for your patience, everyone, about me seeing your names. So Kathleen, if you would unmute. We'll wait for you. There you go.
I was informed about this project through Linda B., who spoke earlier, and I didn't respond right away. But then there was some reason to do this. So I went ahead and purchased one from Karen or Esther. And when she told me the story, what I found was that both of my parents are from that part of China where the stone comes from. So that had very significant meaning to me. And I found that wearing it, and I keep it in my meditation room, is that it helps calm me. And I've also been very affected by what happened with George Floyd, and wanting to find my voice in speaking and promoting peace, and just knowing that there's something that I need to do with that. So I wasn't so comfortable about coming here because I only knew one or two people. But it seems like the calling of the peace stones and the goal is something that I'm meant to be part of. So here I am and excited to be here.
We're so glad you're here, Kathleen.
Thank you.
And then we have Dave. And just a reminder for those who came in late, really we're taking like a minute and a half. I know it's a challenge. So Dave, you can unmute. We'll wait for you.
All right, off and running. Hi,
Perfect.
I'm Dave Logston, and I'm the National Vice President of a group called Veterans for Peace. We have 120 chapters worldwide, including in Okinawa and UK and Ireland. So I'm very proud to be serving in that capacity. But I got turned on to this by through Tom LeBlanc, Strong Buffalo, who I have a lot of admiration and respect for. And so I got introduced to the stone and getting introduced to Esther and her husband. And so I think it's been for us at Veterans for Peace. We had a part of the peace pole ceremony at Esther's house. And we found that we look for these opportunities. So often we have so many reasons to speak out and be against war, be against the militarization of our country. But for me, the four in Veterans for Peace is very important. And I think the Peace Stone and everything it stands for is right in our wheelhouse. And it's something that I feel like this is for us to be involved with this is perfectly all right and a really good opportunity to promote a paradigm of peace rather than the paradigm of war.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. And I think that I recognize Buena. So if that's you, Buena, and you can unmute yourself. We'll wait for you. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi. I was a little confused about the timing, so I assumed late, but I'm here. So what are we doing here? I was late. So
oh, I'm sorry. You're introducing just a minute and a half to say something about who you are and any reflection about the stone's calling to you, the gift that the stone has brought to you, what meaning it's had to you.
Okay. My name is Buena Reddick, and I heard about the stone through Tess, and when she told me about it, I was called to it. I just felt this calling, and I spent a lot of time. I had breast cancer, and I did my radiation treatment up in Sedona. So I spent a lot of time up in Sedona and with the vortex and the crystals and all of this. So of course, when I heard about the stone, I felt this very strong calling. And the way I wear my stone, when I wear it in my pocket. And I have a lot of pain in my left side due to my back and hip. And so maybe, I don't know, it seems like when I have it in my pocket, I can function better. And I just feel that I don't have the true gift yet of what the stone.
You cut out there for a moment, Buenart. Did you go back on mute? Okay. How about
frozen?
You're frozen, so we'll come back to you. So just hang in there because you'll unfreeze, I'm sure. So then I have Patty. We'll wait for you, Patty. There you go.
I got it. Hi, my name is Patty Sullivan, and I'm a friend of Tessakaya's. I knew Tessakaya when she lived in Northfield. And Bonnie Jean, I lived in Northfield too. Then I moved to Massachusetts, and now I'm in Chandler in Arizona. So I guess we have a connection there. But I also have rheumatoid arthritis and I'm in a wheelchair. So I don't get out a lot. And I really wanted to get connected with some kind of peace movement. And so when Hezekiah told me about these stones, I just felt it was right up my alley because I use healing stones called Healite that have really helped reduce my pain a great deal. And if anybody is in pain, I'd certainly recommend those stones to you. They help me get off fentanyl, and I use them every day. I tape them to my body wherever I'm hurting, especially, and they absorb the pain out of your body. And that's such an amazing thing that when I heard about this stone, I just knew that it was going to be effective. And so I've got my stone, and I'm excited to be part of this feel-good group. So many groups are centered around something not very pleasant, and they always kind of bring me down a little, but Tess and I are in another group that's all about love and peace, and so now I have this one to look forward to too. So thank you.
Thank you, Patty. And Strong Buffalo.
Yes. My given name is Tom LeBlanc. My Dakota name is Tatanka Oitika, which means strong buffalo. I was introduced to this Peace Pockets through Gary and Karen association, knowing fellow artists that I work with named Ben Weaver, and got involved with it very early. I'm also a veteran for peace, and I'm the executive director of a group called Oyate Otanen, which is a native-led artist group here in the Twin Cities. And so I got involved because of peace and my connection with rocks and the stars.
Beautiful, and so much more. And so then Catherine.
There, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I'm honored to be here. I am an old friend of Kathy Madalamaki's. Used to live in Minnesota. I'm currently in Yankton, South Dakota. I grew up here, and I came back about 5 years ago. Anyway, Kathy and I have a nice history. A lot of fun, a lot of art. I'm an artist, been an artist my whole life. And I teach calligraphy up at the local, well, it was a college. To me, it's still, I went to first grade there, but now it's a university, so I don't know. You tell me how things go. Anyway, I just, when Kathy said she was sending me my Peace Pocket, I just didn't know what to think. And I know Kathy has always been a stitcher, among many other things, but always a stitcher. She always could sew like a demon. And then I got it, and I was just thrilled. I'm kind of a stone aficionado myself. I got plants, I've got crystals, I've got spheres, you know. And I knew about the tektite, and I knew it came from space. And we've got a lot of space, and I think we need to use it. And I think every day I put this on, and when I go out, I see it as an opportunity for me to be among people. I have my mask if I go to the post office. Now, I know people notice. Most people don't say anything, but some do. Like the postal clerk the clerk at Walgreens. So I end up taking my little stone out, which is shaped in a wonderful half moon. And I'm always wanting the other half. So, and I tell them about tektites and peace, what I know. And they get very excited and think it's a wonderful thing. So all I can say is thank you 1,000 times for having the idea and carrying it out. And it's so nice to see Kathy, and I'm so happy to be part of this. And you're from all over the country. I think it's wonderful.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you. And I think Buena's back. Buena, you were frozen and then got kicked out. Is there anything more you'd like to say?
No, I'm good. The power went off and then the internet was slow. So I'm back and I'm absorbing everything I can. So I'm good.
Perfect. So now, of course, Catherine Powers, would you like to come in? Thank you. You're still muted.
Wrong way.
There you are.
Yes, so I'm Catherine Powers, and I came very early into the project. I'll be probably telling a lot of the origin story. I must be sensitive to stars and vibration in stone, crystal, whatever you want to call it, because I just started getting these intuitions very early on that this was really important. I mean, I was one of the lucky ones that got to go see all 1,000 stones at Karen's, and that makes an impression on you. And you just, anyway, so I've been involved from early on, and most remarkable thing to me is how all the connections that need to be made keep getting made. And I mean, I tried to get a hold of Tezekiah 2 years ago and somehow nothing worked. And then this year, it did work. And not only did it work, but I live in Northfield too. So then it really worked. Anyway, I'll save the rest for later. But that's what I think is the connections that need to be made are being made. And so this gathering is great. Thank you.
Yes. We always talk about the fact that the stones will go where the stones need to go. And so that has been proven over and over again. And Karen, who is also our Esther, in case there's confusion. So Karen, Esther, how about you? You can unmute.
Hi, Tez. Thanks for gathering us today. So you might not be able to see me as much, but I really wanted you to know that I'm sitting with the 900 plus tektite stones, meteorite fragments behind. And they came to this windowsill over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. I'm a realtor, another part of my life. I was called in several times to sell a spiritual center over in Minneapolis. And finally, it was time for them to sell. And each time I had noticed all of their stones and their rocks and their crystals amongst in the spiritual center. And when it came time to sell, I said, and the stones, where are they going? So through a discussion with the owners of this center, I was gifted and able to purchase all of the stones that were there. When I ran a business in the 90s called Circle of Stones, I considered myself a vehicle for the transportation of stones, just as you said. The same thing feels right now. These stones are here. They've been resting in the south window, the sun and the moon, for 2+ years. And all of a sudden they're called to travel. And the group started to form to create a pocket for them to travel in. and we have over 100 of them out and about globally. Many of you are here today that wear a pocket. And as we are speaking today and sharing, the stones are listening. I'm listening as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. And before I do my check-in, have I missed anyone? Through a glitch in technology, I have to do this on my iPhone, which isn't optimal. So I don't want to miss anyone. Okay. So as you know, I'm Tezkiah Gabriel. In addition to my role at Pathways to Peace and Gabriel Associate, I have had a spiritual practice. I'm an ordained minister. I've had a spiritual practice for about 40 years. And I have always honored and loved the frequency of stones and their qualities for healing and bringing all good things. So I got the call through Catherine after connecting with Martha. Catherine Powers asked me, it was in the middle of a very busy week. And she said, I'd like to get together and talk about, this project. And, I get a lot of calls. And so in my mind, in the middle of my busy week, it was like, oh yeah, I'll get back to her when I've got a break here, blah, blah, blah. And she sent me another email, and attached to the email were 2 photos. And one of them was the Tektite stones on Esther's shelf, just like they are today. I opened up that photo and I experienced an initiation. I mean, I started shaking. I kind of went to my knees, and immediately I said yes to the calling. I recognized the initiation, which was about kind of an evolution of my own calling in the world, and that it was related to the mission of the stones. So I immediately said yes, and received my Tektite stone. And there's a lot more to that story. Got connected to Esther. And what Esther and I often say is, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, it was magic, serendipity, synergetic kind of actions that came through the simple act of saying yes to the call. And so I just want to say that all of you are here because you said yes to the call. It was meant to be, no coincidences, and you are those points of light on the planetary grid that will create that new earth. So I just honor every one of you. I honor your stories. I can't wait to hear how the stories evolve over time. And at this point, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to turn it over to our beloved Esther, who I call the keeper of the stone. She hasn't called herself that, but I have referred to her as such. And to Catherine Powers, who will also engage the Table Stitch group and the role that they have played in advancing the Peace Pocket Project. So thank you again to all of you, and I turn it over to Esther and Catherine for the origin story.
Thank you, Tez. I spoke a bit about where they came from and how they came to the windowsill. And as they were passed on to me, they were passed along with the name Emissaries of Peace. That's a powerful name. It's a stone that I knew needed to be the first stones to leave this house, but I really needed to make sure that they were authenticated. How do I do that? They're Tektite from Guangdong province of China. So I thought I'm going to go someplace familiar, and that would be Tucson, Arizona, where there's a rock show where all kinds of people who know everything about stones and rocks and meteors gather. And so I had not been there since the 90s, booked a flight, got on the plane, sat down. Bill Mason sat next to me. And I said, you know, are you going to Tucson? We're going to Tucson. I said, well, I'm going because I've acquired these stones and I want to understand more about what I have. I pulled them out of my pocket and showed him. He said, Guangdong Tektite. These are precious specimens. And I'm a meteorite expert. And I've been doing the Tucson show for 30 years. So there I was sitting right next to Bill Mason, the international meteorite expert, who I've had the pleasure of meeting several times because of course he lives in St. Paul also. And so anyway, that was my one of my first encounters with the authentic emissaries of peace that are sitting on the windowsill. And I think from here, I'm just going to allow Catherine to chime in and tell a bit more about after this 2.5 years of just resting in the windowsill, there was a calling and we needed to gather a group.
And thank you, Esther. The timing of all of this is very interesting. I mean, you've talked about waiting on the windowsill 2.5 years. And my little piece of the story is that while those stones were sitting there, I went to New Zealand, and I picked up a book, only one stop in a used bookstore. And the book was about a man who was told by the Maori to gather 12 people and carry jade stones back across the ancient trail of the South Island to make it sacred again and for peace. And then all sorts of strange things happened to him along the way, and he didn't know how to find the 12 people. And I came home with that book and I just thought, oh, this feels like a premonition. I wonder if I'm going to be asked to do something like this. I don't even think I had re-met Karen at the time. But when I did re-meet Karen and we had some other conversations, and she happened to say, you know, you seem like a sensitive person. I have all these stones at my house. Why don't you come over and see what you feel? And I had not the same reaction as Tez, but I had a very strong reaction that there was something so unusual about an entire collection of meteorites. At the time, we called them meteorites. And, but they were sitting there. And maybe 6 months later, I was going back to New Zealand and one of the Maori elders wanted a meteorite. So I said, I can bring one. And I had not even met the man, but I took the first one to New Zealand. And that was in January of 2019, and the stones are still sitting there until December of 2019, approximately, if I have my date right. And that's when they said, get us ready to move by March 1st. So we gathered the group and we would sit there and, I mean, it was important. I knew it was important to work as a group. And I still think that that is absolutely important. Why it's so important that we're all here to start making these connections. Oh, I should say that the New Zealand stones, besides crossing New Zealand, then the gentleman was told, take them to 12 Native American tribes in North America. And then he was told, take them to, I don't know, 8 to 10 sacred sites in the British Isles. So there were stones out there doing peace work already in my history before I met these. And, you know, people have intuitions about stones, and the ones that were written about this, not only, these are, it clearly says these are here to help us remember what peace is. And I think it's a peace from outer space that hasn't been tainted by all our best attempts to do peace on the earth. I mean, I really think these have a vibration, a template, a matrix that's unique because of the way they were formed. So we found out they're tektite, which comes after a meteorite impact and so on. And I need to be quiet and let the other table people say more, because we're stitching, it's a group, that's important. There were dreams, and we were trying to hear the stones. And we came up with words like ignite, spark. And I'm going to turn it over to who else would say something about what we heard at the table. Josette, you were just nodding.
Okay, sure, I can go. Well, we were working on that long table together with the light just above us so we could stitch the leather. However, they were always in the center, some stones that were small enough that we could gauge that they would be small enough to be contained in our pockets. However, I remember touching those and looking at them and putting them in my hand and feeling a definite connection. And of course, we had warm bread that Karen was cooking. Oftentimes, she cooked some soup for us. It was winter, there was snow, so she would warm us up and feed us, and we would talk and talk. And I remember us talking so much about what those stones coming from the universe down onto earth at that time, and sending the message. I remember there was a book that Karen showed us where there was a paragraph on the tektites, and in there it was said that they would come and be effective in times of strife and pestilence, war and pestilence. And it's exactly what happened. We were working on January, February, and March, and bam, COVID happened, and everything just took us. And we thought, we had goosebumps, and we were saying, oh my goodness, this is so time, the time had come for them to just go out. However, there was a hindrance because suddenly we had to be apart. We couldn't be stitching at our table anymore, eat with each other. We had to be each in our homes, and for a while we were, really closed in. However, there is a very strong significance with the timing and what's going on in the world right now, and what we had intuited, the intuition we had made itself very manifest and very real when it all happened, I remember us talking about the dreams, and for me it was real too when we began to wear as soon as we had made a pocket, Karen gave us a stone for us to wear and experience it for ourselves, and we could either wear it on the heart here, the heart center, or down there on the liver, or the other side, the gallbladder, or however we wanted to wear it. That's why the cord is so big and long, so we could wear it in many ways. And I remember the vivid dreams that came the few first weeks, for sure, by wearing it. So it's something changed inside and created visions, a lot of them. and we would share those at the table. And I'm going to stop and let other people share more. But what we were missing this teaching table dearly once we had to be separated, I remember, and I'm glad we're able to convene again now on the lawn. So it's peace walkers on the lawn, and we can do that with the proper, distancing and all that. So
thank you. And I just want to add at this point that one of the characteristics we noticed was that all the different kinds of skill sets that we needed were actually there. As someone said, Kathy is a master stitcher, and she taught each of us individually where to make the strong points and how to do, actually stitch it so that it's going to work. And Gary was able to make a template to get all the holes to line up and countless other mechanical things that we needed. There were trips that had been made to select the deer skin. There were other people who could do the photography for the website. And part of the message is that you don't get the whole picture. You only get the first step and then the next step, and you have to do a step and then you get the next step. So that's partly where we are today, is we're at which steps have we already made and where are we going next. But I want to see if Kathy or Strong Buffalo wants to add anything.
Or Gary too, our puncher, was punching at the table next to us, bam, and he would just pass on all the waxed linen to to stitch with and all that, and all the little holes, and it was quite the experience. He was a big instrumental part in all this, and I would love to hear what he has to say about that as well.
Gary, anything to say? I think Gary's.
Somehow I lost my video, but can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I can't see me, but if you can hear me, that's all that counts. I often have not much to say, so this becomes a bit of a challenge for me because I work with my hands and not my mouth. But I think earlier I said that what was most amazing to me was the process and the gathering of the people, because when Karen first started with this project, she's an optimist and she has amazing goals and keeps things moving. And I'm perhaps a bit more of a practicalist. And when she said that we're going to move these 1,000 stones, I thought, well, that will work. And then it was like, well, how will that work? And there were some initial stitching done by Karen and Tom Buffalo, and I watched like a pocket a half hour, and I started to do the math, and I'm thinking 1,000 pockets, and this is going to take forever, and who knows when this will get done. But the amazing thing, and was like I spoke to earlier, the connections that happened as a result of what I just attribute to be the power or the properties of the stone, they connected all of the people that were necessary to make this project happen. And through Kathy and Josette and Gwen and Strong Buffalo and Catherine, we put together 1,000 pockets in an amazing amount of time, which I, as a practicalist, thought was going to be impossible. But what we have to remember is that the pocket is simply a means of transporting the stones to where they're supposed to go. Because I believe right now, after all the discussions that we've had, is that the power is in the stone. The pocket is an amazing piece of handiwork with the leather and the stitching, the hand twisting of the denim cords to make the blue cord that the pocket hangs on. But the true essence of this is, in fact, the stone. And the more I think about this, is that the real power, and I'm sure that Strong Buffalo would agree, is the fact that the stone comes from outer space. It is not of this world. Because in my mind, what is happening now is that the world and everything, our earth and what it has going on right now is reaching a crisis point in the fact that, not to be political, but there is a downward spiral, and somehow we need something amazing to lift us from where we are right now. And we need something from outer space, perhaps, to do that, because whatever is here on Earth hasn't worked. It's not working. And we need something above and beyond. And that's why right now I feel that our hope for perhaps peace and understanding and changing the world we live in is being brought forward by this stone that comes with it a power and a magic that we have no understanding of. That's it.
You did. Thank you, Gary. It couldn't have been said better. I'm going to turn this back to Tez because we want to get everybody else involved again in the next part of the journey, remembering that we don't get to see the whole picture. We just trust step by step by step.
So thank you. And Gary, that was just a perfect way to kind of open up to next steps. Thank you so much. And I want to say on behalf of all of us, all of the Peace Walkers at this table, the circle that we're in today, that a thank you to those of you who sat at that table, that stitched those pockets. You were in service to this broader mission that we are now engaged in carrying forward. So thank you, thank you, thank you for your service to us. Catherine, I'm feeling like it would be helpful, because we've talked about each one of us on this call and others who are with us in spirit are a point of light in this grid, what I see as the crystalline grid that surrounds the planet, these points of light that are holding that light frequency for the creation of the new earth. As Gary said, we've got both the universe, or the heavens and the earth, combined in this tektite stone that we all wear. And so I wonder if you'd be willing to pull up the map so that this group can see those points of light. They're represented there, but others are as well. Are you able to do that?
Yes. So now I just need to do the share screen part we practiced.
You'll do fine. Find the map and share. It's working.
Yeah.
So,
There's
hopefully,
there's New Zealand.
so of course we have a lot of concentration in North America, but we're spreading out globally, as you can see. And our numbers are growing. And as peace walkers, our calling is to bring forward those who might also be called to become a peace walker, a receiver of the Tektite stone. So if you want to just close the share now, Catherine, perfect. You did perfect, thank you. What we're going to do now is go into a meditation. And what I'd like you to do is to take your stone and put it on your heart, okay? And just kind of hold it on your heart, because what we're going to do is we're going to join hearts. And of course, we're joining hearts as well as activating the connection between us with our Tektite stones. So I want you to just settle into your chairs and get comfortable. And we're just going to call forth in our own minds through this journey people who might be called as receivers of those stones that are waiting on Karen's shelf. So as we breathe more slowly and more deeply, we just allow ourselves to rest. Rest in the arms of the Creator of all that is. And now I want us to focus on our hearts and those Tektite stones that are resting on each of our hearts. And as we feel the frequency of each of our stones on our heart, we also imagine the connection of everyone in this sacred circle. One heart, we are all one. And as we imagine connecting to all on this planet, all living things, connected through the one heart. And now I want us to imagine that our Tektite stones that are connecting heart to heart are also connecting us up into the universe from where they came. So we are now connected to everything on the planet and everything in the universe as we stand in that connection, heart connected between heaven and earth, bringing all together in the power we experience as one, divinely driven. And now we just send our gratitude to the stones the tektites that we are privileged to carry and that called to us, and gratitude that we said yes. And now we ask our hearts and our tektite stones to bring into our consciousness a name or other names of those who might be called to be receivers. The next generation of the stones going out to anchor peace on our planet. And now we just bring up those names, those faces, those individuals, and we note them. And now as we come back into this physical, virtual presence, we remember the faces, the names of those next receivers. And we're going to bring them with us, along with our heart connection, our tektites activated. We come back into this circle to share. So if you have a way to write down those names, please do so. If you'd rather speak them out loud, we will take a few moments to do that. If you'd like to put them in the chat, we encourage that if that's easy for you. And what we'd like to offer, in this way, Karen / Esther, Catherine Powers, and myself, our contact information is in the chat box. We'd like you to kind of reach out to us with your names. And in addition to reaching out to us with those names, if you have a stirring around how those individuals might be contacted, if you'd like to contact them, we'd love that. If you'd rather one of us contact them, we're happy to do that. And if you'd like to contact them, but you need a little support or some information or some language, please let one of us know, and we'll make sure that you get what you need. So I'm going to stop talking in this moment and ask what you'd like to share from your meditation. And I'm very cognizant of a short amount of time. And oh, how I'd love to hear all of your stories of your meditation. But if there's anyone who would like to share the names that came or anything about their meditation, let's take 5 minutes before we close to do that. Can just raise your hand. I may not see you, but Catherine Powers will.
Martha?
Martha.
So when we joined hearts, many of the things that were said came into my heart. Take the next step, the power of the stone to heal, the connection to the larger universe. So I would just like to lift out and just name the names by first name, because they have to do with healing and they have to do with different parts of the world. So my names are Antoinette, Silvana, Wendy, Helena, Sheldon, Drew, Rosemary, Julie, Tori, and Rebecca. And if there's a way that I can procure the stones, I can see that they get connected. Thank you.
Beautiful, Martha. So exciting. The stones are being called forth as we knew they would. Anyone else who would like to share?
The countries are South Africa and 2 parts in Australia.
Beautiful. Anyone else who would like to share? Don't be shy. All sharing is equally good. Equally powerful.
Okay, Josette.
Perfect.
Yes, I wanted to say, as far as imagery, when you said we're connected to everything, what came to me was a story that I had heard about grandmother spider who was there in some of the native tradition stories. Grandmother spider was there early before the world was created. At the creation time, she didn't look like a spider, but she was a weaving being, and a good friend was the moon. And so moon with her pearlescent rays and spider with her wonderful way of weaving, they got together and they were the one who sent the connection in the black matrix between planets and stars and the stuff that made now what they call the black matter that they could never photograph or they could never capture. And of late, they finally found a way, and it's a web. It's exactly a web of pearlescent long lines in between everything. And that's what came to me when you said we're all connected throughout the universe. And then I thought of names in the south of France, people that I know, and here in Lanesboro and in other places. And so it was interesting that I went like in Corsica, the island. And so, yeah, they will be traveling the stones. It was a wonderful meditation. Thank you.
And Josette, do you have a sense that you'd like to distribute the stones to those people, or you'd like us to? What will work for you?
You mean to contribute the money, to advance the money?
No. Just how you'd like the stones to get to those people. Would it be through you or?
Talk with Karen. Karen is a mailing center forever and ever, amen. And she's the one who sends them. She has them. She has everything. She's and the beautiful packets that were created by Leah and others. And so it'll be sent. Yeah.
That sounds great. So I will share with you that my process, because it feels very much like a ritual, is that when I have channeled who needs to get the stones, and it's really about responding to the calling of the stone, then I choose the stone in the pocket, bring it to Karen, and then she sends it out. So there are many different and varied ways for the stones to leave Karen's shelf and get to where they're called to go. So the sky's the limit. So thank you, Josette. You'll be talking to Karen, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so
I saw Bonnie Jean's hand.
good, Bonnie Jean, please.
Go ahead, Bonnie Jean.
Yeah. I think you're muted still. You need to unmute, Bonnie Jean.
Can you unmute?
Am I now?
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. So I'm sitting here thinking it was 40 years ago, I think maybe even this week, that I met Karen. We had just moved to Northfield. So I've had the privilege of our friendship for 40 years. And if I've
Wow.
learned one thing from Karen over those years, it's to listen to the voices.
Yes.
She does that. She's always done that. She listened to the voices not that long ago when she reconnected with her college roommates. One of them, Catherine. Now think about that. She reconnects with her roommates. Catherine finds the books. She reads about the stones. So anyway, with Karen as my inspiration, and as we think about the people with whom we might connect the stone, I just encourage us to listen to the voices.
Yes. We had just a little time for that meditation. So if you didn't, even if you did get names, then you can contact with those and us with those, and we can talk about it. But if you didn't get any names, please continue to ask that question in your own meditation. I guarantee that names and faces, or names or faces, will come up for you, because the stones go where the stones need to go. So I really encourage you to continue that practice. And so just because we really want to honor your time, at this point, I'd like to close by asking Strong Buffalo once again to come back to us with a closing.
The best part of the show. No, I'm joking.
That's good. Humor's good.
I think we should remember that this is a star you're carrying. That I think Karen had mentioned that it doesn't need purification. For us human beings, with our weakness and what we did to this earth, to have something with us that's so pure and from before the earth was created can only help us. So I'm going to close with a couple poems. One is called Star of the Dark. The dark star fell down from the sky, from that place afar. It landed and it split apart, making light by dark, giving a brand new start. It sings that song, heard only in the skies, when someone we love dies. A tiny little one is awakened and born, a star. It looked up and declares, listen, my loved ones. Long ago, not many were here. Now many step over my place. Don't let my appearance or sides hide the insight and presence held within this facade. It holds the fire and the light that understands what it takes to live long and well. That dark star makes peace and helps to live in the light. I have a grandma, her name is Elizabeth Rock. In Dakota, you say Inya for stone or rock. Inside, you may find your prayers and thoughts, for sure. Some prayers and thoughts are what is needed to help you to love and be considerate. Maybe help you cooperate and be of assistance in saving the earth. But count on me. I'll be one of those stone movers, one of those earth savers, one of those star carriers. This stone, rock, pebble, mountain, meteorite, what is within it is life. It is there. The old of before lives there. That what made you and lives in there, old memories, thoughts, and deeds of tales of long gone. If you put your energy in there, your thoughts and prayers with them, you will do a lot. Not easy to find and very hard to do. So grab that rock, hold that stone, pray with that meteorite. It will help you to be respectful and peaceful and will return much to you and will give you so much. Thank you, Peace Pocket people. May we all walk in peace.
Thank you. Deep bow to you, Strong Buffalo, and to everyone on this call. Deep bows for saying yes to the call. And we expect to engage all together with our ever-expanding circle in the future, connected by heart. And those beautiful, powerful stones that called us. Blessings of peace.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. See you.
Thank you.
You
Amazing. Thank
on
you
this
all.
planet.
Strongbow, can we have copies of your poem?
Sure.
Really important. They'll make
Thank you.
gifts for the stones. Thank you.
Sure.
Perfect. And Catherine, you can stop the recording. There's a little square next